Hi, I'm Liv and welcome back to the Book Nook. I've dyed my hair. Look at it, it's a different colour. It's making it quite difficult to get all of the white balancing and colouring right, plus the fact that I'm recording this at 10 to 11 at night. It's late night at the booktube. No, late night at the Book Nook on booktube. Late night at the booktube. It's like a really shitty wham. So this is my second-hand mega haul video, and I've decided to record it at 10 to 11 because it's just what time it is when I've finished doing all my other crap. So let's get on with things. The first ones that I'm going to haul. Let's move the table. Do you like my hair, by the way? Do you like it? It's all that red. So the first ones I'm going to haul are the books that I bought when I went to the book fair in Topsham. Now this is nearly a month ago now. It was right at the beginning of the month, and you may have seen on Twitter and Instagram that I tweeted and Instagrammed about a few books that I almost bought, things like a signed first edition of a Sylvia Plath collection and first edition of Virginia Woolf Writer's Diary and some other books that were just amazing but were so expensive, and I told myself if I started down the rabbit hole of collecting special editions and first editions and signed books like that, I would go broke. So I restrained myself, look at me go, but I did buy a couple of books, just so that I could say I'd bought something at the book fair. And the first one I bought is actually a copy of a book that I've already got, but it's a lovely edition, and it's Just My Type. Oh, that was wafty. Just My Type by Simon Garfield. I have got the paperback of this, but this hardback edition is just gorgeous, so I bought it. It's a book about fonts, and you've got a gorgeous blue front cover and then yellow on the back, and look at those end papers. So it's a book of stories about how Helvetica and Comic Sans took over the world, about why Barack Obama opted for Gotham while Amy Winehouse found her soul in 30s Art Deco, about the great originators of type from Baskerville to Zap and people like Neville Brody who threw out the rule book, about the pivotal moment when fonts left the world of Letraset and were loaded onto computers, and typefaces became something we realised we all have an opinion about. And beyond all this, Just My Type reveals what may be the very best and worst fonts in the world and what your choice of font says about you. It's really nice as well. This little bit here tells you what all the fonts are on the front cover. Adriator Regular Aeronauts, Flirt Bold, Cyclone, Adam Gorry Inline, Shutterstock Decorative Alphabet, Pop-Ups, Adriator Regular, Aeronaut and Polytone Reliant. So as you guys will have possibly gathered from a lot of my videos, I'm a big fan of design, and you know, I'm crap at it, but I love the idea of it, and I just think it's gorgeous, and good design makes the world go round. So in terms of fonts as well, I agonise over every font decision and then always regret it, so this one is right up my street. Then the other one I got at the book fair is a tiny little book, Ansel Adams Photographs. It's a tiny little book of some of his photographs. That's as simple as that really, and you've got a bit of text in there as well. Now I love Ansel Adams. I used to do some photography a few years back, and I did predominantly shoot in black and white film because I'm a hipster wanker. And Ansel Adams was a really big sort of influence, even though I did more sort of like people than landscapes. I really loved his stuff, and while I was at university in Greenwich, what's the museum? How have I forgotten this? I live near it. The museum in Greenwich, the Royal Maritime Museum, that's the one. They actually had an Ansel Adams exhibition down in the basement. And I went and saw that and got myself a poster and the book and absolutely loved it. So when I saw this one at the book fair, I was like, I'll get this little one. Then also in Topsham, after I went to the book fair, I popped to Topsham Books, which is a lovely little bookshop, second-hand books. You go in and downstairs you've got like children's fiction and some first editions, and then you go through and you've got sort of travel and foreign languages and things, and you go upstairs and you go left for fiction and you go right for non-fiction, and I went left. Well, I did go right as well, but I went left first and for longer. So I picked up a few books from there that are books that I've been sort of meaning to get round to and just haven't got copies of. The first one is Paul Auster's New York trilogy. Been talking to a couple of colleagues about Paul Auster recently because of course 4321 by Paul Auster is on the Man Booker long list, and I was sort of saying how I basically have no desire to read that one, and that Paul Auster isn't necessarily an author that appeals to me, but a few people have said that the New York trilogy is one that I should give a go, so I picked up a copy of that. Then I also picked up a couple of Anai Nin books. We've got Little Birds and In Favour of the Sensitive Man. There's another, Delta of Venus as well, is one that I really want to read, but I kind of really wanted to have all three little ones like this, and they didn't have Delta of Venus, so oh well, have to go back another day. So Anai Nin is someone that I've always wanted to read. Sort of obviously she writes about sort of female sexuality in a way that wasn't done when she was writing. And I remember a while ago listening to, and I can't remember what the podcast was, but it was a podcast with Sarah Pascoe on it, and she read from a bit of Anai Nin, and it just was absolutely gorgeous and it blew me away. So gonna get around to those. And then I also bought a book that is part of one of the books that I almost bought at the book fair. At the book fair, there was a collection, a box collection of the 70th anniversary Penguin books, all in a box, and it was gorgeous, and I very nearly bought it. They were the pocket penguins that celebrated 70 years of Penguin. So when I saw one of these in Topsham bookshop, I thought, okay, here's my consolation, and it's Melissa Bank, The Worst Thing a Suburban Girl Could Imagine. Now, I've not heard of this one before, but it is like properly slim. So I'm just quite excited to read this one, having read a little bit about it and flicked through. It was an immediate bestseller when it was published and garlanded with praise by critics for its unique, honest and appealing voice. In this piece, Jane tells us about her relationship with a man who will never use her name. Then I picked up a copy of another book that I've never read that I always meant to, and that's Jonathan Livingston Seagull, a story by Richard Bach, and this one's got photographs by Russell Munson in it as well, so there are a few different editions of Jonathan Livingston Seagull in the bookshop, but I got this one because... So yeah, that's another one that I'll be getting around to. That's the little haul from my day out in Topsham, and then I went into a stationery and book retailer who, okay, I went into WH Smith's, and all of us will know that in WH Smith there is like a clearance section where they always have like £1 books, where they're often like ex-display copies or ones where they've just ordered it in, and I was like, okay, I'll go have a little look. Often have a little browse, see if there's anything in there that's not Sylvia Day or like One Direction books, I don't know. So I got lucky and I picked up a copy of, okay, it's the movie cover, but it's Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell, and I don't have Cloud Atlas, and I thought, well, a movie cover for £1, I'm going to be looking at the inside, not the front, let's give it a go. Never read any David Mitchell. And then a non-fiction book that I picked up is Malcolm Gladwell's What the Dog Saw. Malcolm Gladwell, of course, wrote Blink and Outliers, and I've read sort of like a few bits of those books. So these breathtaking intellectual adventure stories covering everything from criminology to ketchup, job interviews to dog training, Malcolm Gladwell looks under the surface of everyday life to show how the most ordinary subjects can illuminate the most extraordinary things about us and our world. And I like that. I like the ordinary turned extraordinary, and something about that just really appealed to me. So for £1, why not? Okay, this table is just covered with books now. Coffee time. I'm going like all red. Look at me, very in scheme. The coffee I'm drinking, by the way, if anyone's interested, is from a little Southwest team called Littles. They're at We Are Littles on Twitter and Instagram, and for Christmas somebody got me a pot of, it's instant coffee, which I know people will sniff at, but it's really nice instant coffee, and they do like flavour infusions, and I think my brother or my dad got me a pot of the amaretto flavoured instant coffee for Christmas, and it's gorgeous. So when that ran out, I thought, okay, let's have a little look at their website. So I got maple walnut, sorry, infused instant, another amaretto infused instant, a decaf French vanilla instant, and they do also do ground coffee, so I got chocolate caramel ground coffee, roast hazelnut ground coffee, and French vanilla ground coffee, because that's got the caffeine in it. And they're just really nice coffees. If you fancy something a bit different, bit of a flavour in there, they're just absolutely gorgeous. So there, local plug. Maybe if I tag We Are Littles in this, they'll send me a free jar. That bit there is where I would have like photoshopped in a halo if I had any idea how to do that. Probably put like the halo emoji here. You guys know by now I'm not technically proficient enough to edit these things in, but I do just keep in the bit of me going, there's another one for you. So the next 3 that I got are me doing my usual thing where I buy a book by an author that I've been meaning to read for a while, and then I decide, oh, I'm obviously going to love that author, so I go out and buy all of them, and that's Nicola Barker. So I got a copy of Darkman's, so I decided I would go online and see if I could find some second-hand ones of Nicola Barker, and I could. So the first one is Behindlings. Some people follow the stars, some people follow the soaps. Wesley prefers not to follow. Wesley is a prankster, a maverick, a charismatic manipulator who longs to live his life anonymously. But it is his awful destiny. Wow, that's a lot of consonants. But it is his awful destiny to be hotly pursued, secretly stalked by a desperate group of oddballs he calls the Behindlings. So this one's meant to be like insanely inventive and things like that. It's got another Ali Smith quote on the back. An earthy, hilarious, romping runaway Behindlings is the sort of novel that changes things. It's a new kind of book and an intense kind of joy. You know how much I love Ali Smith, so, you know. Then I got also a copy of Books Are Sticking Together, The Yips, with this really creepy cover that, oh god, you can see their eyes glinting in the light, it's creepy. The Yips, storm clouds are gathering above the bar of Luton's less than exclusive Thistle Hotel. Among those caught up in the unfolding drama are a man who's had cancer 7 times, a woman priest with an unruly fringe, I know that pain, the troubled family of a notorious local fascist, an interfering barmaid with 3 E's at A-level but a PhD in bullshit, and a free-thinking Muslim sex therapist with his considerably more pious wife. But at the heart of every intrigue and the bottom of every mystery is the repugnantly charismatic figure of Stuart Ransom, a golfer in freefall. It is at once a historical novel of the pre-Twitter moment and the most flamboyant piece of comic fiction ever to be set in Luton. I imagine that list is very short, and I imagine that's the point of that comment, not of the book. The Yips, again, in theme. Lady in Red. And then I also got a copy of Nicola Barker's Clear, which has a longer blurb than the others, but is essentially a book set around when David Blaine trapped himself in a perspex box next to the River Thames, and it sort of zooms in on some of the crowds and some characters and things like that, so that one looks intriguing. Then a couple of slightly more inventive, weird and wacky books that I've heard about. First one is Christian Bock? Burke? What's that one again? Christian Burke? Can't be Burke. Can't be a Burke. Christian, him, eunoia. Now this one, eunoia, which means beautiful thinking, is the shortest English word to contain all 5 vowels. This book also contains them all, except that each one appears by itself in its own chapter. A unique personality for each vowel soon emerges. A is courtly, E is elegaic, I is lyrical, O is jocular, U is obscene. A triumphal feat, 7 years in the making, eunoia is as playful as it is inspiring. And I like the quote on the back here, no mere Christmas stocking filler for Countdown fans. Okay. Yeah, it's dedicated, each chapter is dedicated to a different vowel, and you've got things like, let's find one. Hassan gags and has an asthma attack, a catarrh as fatal as Laza and Hanta, cramps as sharp as darts and barbs jab and jag at gastral tracts. Carpal pangs gnarl a man's hands and cramp a man's palms. Hassan asks that a shame and abstract a talc cataplasm that can thwart a blatant rash. Raw scars that can scar a man's scalp and gall a man's glands. Scratch, scratch. A warm salt bath can blanch all plantar warts and stanch all palatal scabs. A transplant can patch a basal gland. A bold Shah barfs and farts as a lab man balls. Plasma, stat, alas, alack. A Shah has a grand mouth spasm and gasps a schwa as a last gasp. I'm quite impressed with myself there, I'm not going to lie. I'll just wait for your applause. So this is a book that I heard about when I, good old internet search algorithms, when I had been talking about Georges Perec's A Life, and then had been sort of looking at different editions of A Void. This one came up as a suggested book, so I got a copy for like pennies. Then another one that was recommended to me by someone who follows me on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, and gave me one of the happiest working moments when I got recognised for the first time. She came into work and was like, "You're that girl from Instagram," and I was like, so she recommended me a book after I was talking about some others, and that is P by Mark Dunn, and it's another experimental one. It's the strangest, most original and delightful book you'll read this year, a novel told through the correspondence of the people of Nolop, who worship the author of the sentence, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. When the Z falls from the monument they've erected to their hero, Nolop's priests, interpreting this as divine commandment, outlaw the writing or even speaking of any word containing it. And then Q falls, and then J. As the alphabet relentlessly shrinks, the islanders are left with an ever smaller pool of permitted words for their communications, love letters, urgent messages, threats, and underground resistance. It's a race against time, as letters continue to fall until only L, M, N, O, and P are left. How can they save themselves from being silenced forever? So thank you, Annette, because this sounds so far up my alley. It's the door. Do alleys have doors? Sometimes. But basically this sounds absolutely perfect for me. And again, just sort of flicking through and seeing chapters where they've clearly got less letters left, it just looks, oh, this is going to be a favourite, I'm sure of it. Then another, from what I can gather, slightly experimental novel that was actually one I heard about thanks to Davina McCall. So I've got on my phone, on my podcast app, a load of old Desert Island Discs episodes. They're still Kirsty ones. But they're all on there and I listen to them when I'm doing my physio exercises in bed. And the other night I was listening to Davina McCall's one because I bloody love Davina McCall. And she was talking about Still Life with Woodpecker by Tom Robbins. And I was just absolutely intrigued. It's a sort of a love story that takes place inside a pack of caramel cigarettes. Caramel cigarettes? Camel cigarettes. caramel cigarettes. That could take off, you know. I mean, it shouldn't, but it could. It reveals the purpose of the moon, explains the difference between criminals and outlaws, examines the conflict between social activism and romantic individualism, and paints a portrait of contemporary society that includes powerful Arabs, exiled royalty, and pregnant cheerleaders. It also deals with the problem of redheads. So it just sounds absolutely fantastic. A real weird one, and I'm all about the weird. I'm all about the weird. No, normal. Then a couple of other ones that I have picked up recently. Dennis Johnson's Jesus' Son. Of course, after Dennis Johnson died, I realised I've never read any of his stuff, and I kept on hearing about Jesus' Son, his collection of short stories. So I thought I'll get myself a second-hand copy of one of the old editions, because I really liked some of the old covers. So the website that I often use for second-hand books has the pictures of all of them, but it doesn't tell you the size of them. So I ordered this book, and it arrived, and it's not quite what I thought it was, because it's tiny. It's smaller than my face. You can't say that about much. Face like a moon. So, it's a tiny little one, and it's German. It's not in German. Well, not all of it. The blurb is totally in German. Dennis Johnson gilt als einer der... I'm not even... No. Okay. No. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how accurate the translation... I mean, that sounds really, really disparaging, but I don't know this publisher, Reclam. And it is sort of clearly for a German audience, because there are footnotes that so the text is in English, but there are footnotes that translate English words back into German for people, or something. So, who knows, but Dennis Johnson's Jesus' Sons. Then one I saw somebody talking about on Twitter, and I really should try and remember who I see talking about these books, or if I buy them I should like screenshot who tweeted about it or something. But somebody was talking about a Virago Modern Classics book, Grace Paley's Enormous Changes at the Last Minute. So I picked up a copy of this. This is the unmistakable voice of Grace Paley. In these superb stories, wry, sardonic, often brutally funny, she speaks with disconcerting honesty about people in and out of love, husbands and wives, parents and children, passing strangers. New York is the setting, but like Chekhov's Russia, it's a place we all know. Her characters inhabit a world of too little money, too many kids, of husbands gone off somewhere, probably for good. Survivors all, illusions gone, they face the vicissitudes of life with a mixture of cheerful optimism and rueful acceptance. These unforgettable tragicomedies have echoes of Dorothy Parker, but the style, wit, and imaginative daring of vision are Grace Paley's own. First published in 1968 and only her second published work, confirmed her reputation as one of the great short story writers of this century. And I love me some short stories. I love me some bold women's voices. And this one obviously passed me by a little bit before my time. So I'm really grateful to whoever it was that tweeted about this that I saw, because I'm going to give this one a go soon. Speaking of bold female voices, I got myself a copy of Cool for You, a novel by Eileen Miles. Now, Eileen Miles I don't know as much about as I should, but I've got a copy of I Must Be Living Twice, which is her collection of poetry, and I've read a few from that, and they're just like, whoa, okay, this is cool. Cool, you know, just to, you know. So this is a non-fiction novel tracing the downbeat progress of a girl growing up in working-class Boston. Schooled by mean and memorable Catholic nuns, this tomboy, I've made another new word, guys. Tomboy heroine becomes tomboy. Tomboy heroine stumbles and dreams her way through the painful corridors of family, early sexual encounters, and an eye-opening series of jobs caring for the sick and insane in the abandoned wards of the state. Throughout the course of her young life, the narrator wants to become an astronaut. Instead, she becomes a poet. So yeah, I'm excited to give this one a go. Then another one that I picked up is a book by Kathy Acker. Now, you may remember... Cat. He's actually staying put. You know. So another one that I picked up is a Kathy Acker book. Now, you may remember from one of my previous hauls that David Allen Books have sent me a proof of After Kathy Acker, which is Chris Krause's biography of Kathy Acker, which is coming out now to celebrate the sort of re-release of Blood and Guts in High School by Kathy Acker. Now, obviously, that is like the only one that's easy to get hold of at all. So I wanted to get hold of something else, so I got a copy of Hannibal Lecter, My Father. Now, this is a collection of, you've got interviews with her, you've got bits of short fiction, sort of scraps of things, so I figured it's a way of getting to know Kathy Acker maybe a little bit more. So yeah, Hannibal Lecter, My Father. I might just leave him in frame. Then a couple of hardbacks that I picked up. First is one that I think it was Simon Savage who had mentioned either this book or this author a little while ago, and that's The Miniature Wife by Manuel Gonzalez. Now this is a collection of short stories, 18 short stories, rendered for the fantastic, commonplace, and the ordinary, extraordinary, and we've just mentioned how much I love that. So this one is one that, yeah, I've heard from I think Simon Savage and a couple of other people as well, so picked up a copy of that. Does he want to lick himself a bit louder? Then one that I had to order from America is In the House Upon the Dirt Between the Lake and the Woods by Matt Bell, and I did not realise when I ordered it, but it's a very exciting thing. It's signed at the top there. Just here, isn't that nice? An accidental signed book. So this is a book that tells the story of a newly married couple who take up a lonely existence in the title's mythical location. In this blank and barren plot, far from the world they've known, they mean to start a family. But every pregnancy fails, and as their grief swells, the husband, a hot-tempered and impatient fisherman and trapper, attempts to prove his dominion in other ways, emptying both the lake and the woods of their many beasts. As the years pass, the wife changes too. Her powerful voice sings new objects into being, including a threatening moon hung above their house, its doomed weight already slowly falling, bending the now starless sky. So this sounds like a magically weird one. Can't wait. Speaking of magically weird, another one I picked up is Margaret Atwood's Wilderness Tips. Now this was an accidental hardback because I thought I'd ordered a paperback version, but oh well. And this gorgeous cover that's got the Frida Kahlo painting there. I love Frida Kahlo's paintings. So this is a collection of short fiction that I thought, why not? But the last book is actually the first book that kind of kick-started this secondhand spree of August. And it is a book that I have already read, but I haven't read this. Well, I've read the book, it's not a different edition, it's just a different cover. And somebody tweeted, again, forgotten who, but somebody tweeted a picture of this particular edition of the book, the hardback edition, that I never got, and I was like, well, I've got to have it. And that is The Department of Speculation by Jenny Offill. Now, I love this book. It was one that was a big inspiration to me when I was writing on my masters, and sort of weird short-form fiction, little fragments that make up a whole, and it's just an incredible book, and I just had to have this edition, this cover, because it's lovely. So, I don't know why the light's suddenly gone. My little lamp thing seems to have died a bit, which is annoying because it had new batteries in it, but oh well. So, that's my second-hand mega spree. Mega haul. Aeroplane. Thank you. I'll wait. So yeah, that is my second-hand mega haul for August. I've got to start stopping. Yeah. So, to give you an indication of how long it normally takes me to record one of these videos, it's now 11:25. To be fair, that wasn't helped by my camera battery dying halfway through and having to swap that over, but still. So, however long the video is, just bear in mind I've been recording from 10 to 11 till nearly 11:30. That's 40 whole minutes. So the cat's on the windowsill and I've got to go to bed. It's not as well known a song as Cats in the Cradle, but it's there. And I am tomorrow hosting with Dave the first Pullman book group at Waterstones, Exeter. I'm very excited. I'm also a little nervous because I've never run a book group before, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I've got lots of things planned as well as talking about the book, so that's going to be really exciting. I say tomorrow, it'll be today when this video goes up, so tonight. Maybe as you're watching this, I am doing that. Alright then, bye. You can do it. There, boy. Shut the door behind you? No? Rude. So yeah, thank you very much for I can't even thank you. So, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you next time, or you shall see me next time. Maybe I'll get some consistency one day. Today is not that day. Bye!